Hi friends, it's Kayla. Welcome back to a super exciting vlog where I read 3 books inspired by the titles of my favorite songs. This isn't one of those big ambitious vlogs that's about finding the most accurate book titles and reading a whole bunch of books that I've never heard of before, but rather a way that I can build a TBR from my existing TBR shelf in a fun, silly way. Or at least 2 out of 3 of them are like that, and then one we're gonna find today. Anyway, I have 3 top all-time favorite musicians, artists, bands, and I discovered each of them at a different time in my life. So I have one from high school, one from my young adulthood, and one from now. And those are Pink Floyd, Bon Iver, and Dermot Kennedy. I absolutely have a distinct favorite song from those first 2 that I heard like for the first time in 2004 and 2008 respectively, that have remained my favorites since. Weirdly, both of them reference animals and also have words in parentheses. Animals is by no means my favorite album from Pink Floyd, but this is my favorite song. Now, I'm not going to find a book called Pigs, 3 different ones. Searching on my Goodreads, which has all of the books that I own, there is one book of note with pig in the title, and that's On This, The Day of the Pig by Josh Malerman, who is one of my favorite authors. I read quite a few 4 and 5 stars from him. This was recently republished as Pearl, which I mean we can all agree has an objectively better title and cover. And I think it's about a pig with mind control. So this is the first of 3 books we're adding to this week's TBR. Moving along to Bon Iver, their debut album For Emma Forever Ago. The first time I heard Wolves, Act 1 and 2. It changed my life. I got to see them play live in Deer Lake Park, just like this outdoor beautiful concert. They ended the entire show playing Wolves, and it was a spiritual experience. Wolves is actually the tattoo that I have, lyrics from that song, and also a contributor to why my son's middle name is Wolf. Now, I've read quite a few books with Wolf in the title already. I have a few from my TBR to choose from. Obviously, again, not going to find a book called Wolves Act 1 and 2, but I've selected Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey. Since I read Migrations earlier this year, I have just been itching to get to this one. And I feel like if we look at the lyrics and we look at the content here, they might have some things connecting them that we can talk about. Now we need to talk Dermot Kennedy. When I originally had this video idea, I think a year ago, I filmed myself listening to every single one of his songs, and then I ranked them. I'm waiting for you till we kiss in the car. Or at least try to. I ended up just rating them too many 5 stars to even be reasonable. And then I tried to pick some favorites, and I ended up with An Evening I Will Not Forget, Without Fear, Glory, and Young and Free. Though I do have a question mark next to Without Fear. I think like objectively his best song is Glory, but my favorite songs are Young and Free, Without Fear, and An Evening I Will Not Forget. Now the same could absolutely be true for Pink Floyd and Bon Iver. I have plenty of favorite songs. I'll talk those more through later though. If you're a channel member, I would switch over to the custom vlog just for you, because it's going to include all of the copywritten music that I can't include in this one. I've actually put together a Spotify playlist that anybody can access of just like 100 of my favorite songs, because another direction I was going to go with this video wasn't just like my 3 favorite artists and my favorite songs from them, but just like all-time favorite songs like Hotel California, Bohemian Rhapsody, Dramamine, Chanel. You get the point. So if you want to go there, I'll put the ones that I'm referencing at the top so you can go listen to them yourself as I reference them in this video. There are definitely some interesting trends with my favorite songs. Like there's a lot of first names, Georgia and Layla and Annie and Sister Christian. There's also a lot of like food references, milk and chop suey, pears, Sift. Also a lot of places like Alaska and like the water fountain, Little Hotel. A lot of songs on my favorites also have stop, like Can't Stop, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Stop from the Spice Girls, Stop from Pink Floyd. And then titles that would be impossible to find a book with the same title, like IYH, IWITW, 2522. Whatever this says. Since I don't have a clear favorite Dermot Kennedy, and there are so many that I love, I thought that we should get really accurate with this one if we can, because these 2 clearly are a little bit off from the titles, but close enough. But with this one, I want to find a book that has the exact title as one of Dermot Kennedy's 5-star songs. Without Fear, I feel like I'm gonna get self-help, and that's not really what I'm looking for. And it's also like not what the lyrics of Without Fear are about. about. So I'm not really looking for that kind of connection. Okay, we've got Daredevil, the man without fear. Being in love, how to love without fear. Bears without fear. Flying without fear. Managing employees without fear. Preparing delicious Indian meals without fear or fuss. I actually think I've read a book before called Birth Without Fear or something like that when I was pregnant. Okay, nothing is standing out for me here. Now, a book called Young and Free, I don't know that I'm gonna find. Well, this one's $69. Post-colonial ontologies of childhood memory and history in Australia. Lies young women believe. Interesting. We Free the Stars. Breaking free of OCD. No, I don't want your help today, thank you. Okay, what about Glory? Oh, Glory. No, Violet Buluwayo. No, I don't own that one. I own another book from her though. Hey, and it's on sale. Oh yeah, We Need New Names. Have I read that? There's a pig on the cover and a dog that kind of looks like a wolf. Are these all gonna be weirdly connected? Is it in? There's one at my store. What is it even about? An anthropomorphic blockbuster of a novel that chronicles the fall of an oppressive regime and the chaotic, kinetic potential for real liberation that rises in its wake. Ugh. I mean, let's just go with Glory. That's so fun. I did say it was his best song, so that just feels right. Since we're just coming off of the Halloween season and I want to read horror and I'm wearing the Pink Floyd shirt, let's do Pearl to begin with. Before anyone thinks I'm weird for picking a song from Animals as my favorite Pink Floyd song, it's not my favorite album. The Wall is superior in every way, the entire experience of that. If I could only have one album for the rest of my life, like, it's The Wall. It's The Wall all day. However, whatever Pink Floyd album is your favorite, you're correct. Though my taste in The Wall is probably equally questionable because my favorite songs are Stop, One of My Turns, and Young Lust. 4 chapters into Pearl and it's already gotten very brutal. So firstly, Pearl is a boy pig. I wasn't expecting that. And in the very first chapter, he convinces a farmer to kill a different pig because Pearl doesn't want to be taken out. And I guess Pearl's entire life, he has been like up for slaughter and has convinced other people to take another pig so he can just like not be killed. And they were following some kids at a nearby school and I think they are getting wind of Pearl and going to try and do something. I don't know. I'm intrigued. I'm also horrified. Just with how intense it got so quickly and a couple like deaths and the description of them, like we're 25 pages into the book. So I can't imagine what's to come. I think there are already definitely some connections we can make between, well, Animals, the entire album, being inspired by Animal Farm and this big like commentary on politics and every level of society, sheeps, pigs, dogs. And I don't think Josh Malerman has said anywhere like this is inspired by Animal Farm, but it clearly feels like a very gruesome interpretation of Animal Farm. Something fun about Pearl though is that it exists in what I'm realizing is like the Josh Malerman cinematic universe, and it takes place in a neighboring town to Goblin, which is a short story collection I really didn't like. But much like Stephen King has most of his books in Maine, Josh Malerman has a lot of books set in Michigan, and I just love when horror authors especially create this entire world where all of these like really weird stories are all contained. I have been reading Pearl for so long. It isn't a slow-moving book, but because it's so fast-paced, it gets kind of exhausting to read really quickly. This is today's Pink Floyd shirt. I'm not going to try to make any connections between the song and the book, but what's happened at this point, I'm really close to the end, which is why I felt like I needed to update you before I actually finished it. I have been picking it up day after day, reading 50 pages at a time, putting it down, and this is the perfect example of a 3-star horror for me. Like, I'm having a fine time. I have no issues with it. I would recommend it to tons of people who love gory, fast-moving, pure action horror, which is what this is. I think I just want more either like something intriguing with the characters themselves, like scenes in between the action to learn about people, to root for people, or to like learn about society, or just to appreciate some beautiful writing. Or I want some type of mystery in there. Like I want some questions, I want some plot twists. That's what I'm looking for in this genre. I've read so many horror books in the last couple years that have been so up my alley that this didn't really need to remain on my TBR, but I'm really glad to be getting to it. I feel like his book, I just picked up from the library, called Daphne. I feel like this has kind of a similar premise, and it's all about the mind, and I really wanted to read this before that because this one really intrigues me, and I think it's just like a woman who you're not supposed to think about her or you die, something like that. And this one, you're not supposed to go near Pearl. So we're following kind of 3 different people or groups of people. We have the family who owned the farm. There's like a mother who has a history with Pearl, doesn't want to go near the farm. Then her boys get introduced to Pearl, don't want to go near the farm. And then we have this group of like high school friends who sneak onto the farm to find out what's up. And then we're also following, I don't want to give anything away, but there is a man from Pearl's past. And if there are any questions that we have, like the little bit of mystery, I guess, his storyline kind of answers that. Naturally, in a book about farming and like slaughterhouse activities, there's a lot of just like gruesome language outside of what Pearl wants to convince people to do. This all takes place, I think, on one day, but there are flashbacks to different things. And one of those things is like various meetings with like meat packing or distribution people, and they're talking about how they don't care about workplace ethics. It's like make as many pigs as you can as fast as you can, whatever means necessary. And they go into gruesome detail about breeding pigs. It's nasty. It's nasty on purpose, and it's this like, I'm pretty sure Josh Malerman is a vegetarian, so it very much feels like he wanted to give pigs like a revenge story. So all the things that are disgusting are obviously intended to be that way. It's horror, but that still makes it like not enjoyable to read. And you might say horror is not meant to be enjoyable to read, it's meant to be scary, but I have read a lot of horror that I've had a good time reading. So anyway, gonna wrap this up really quick. I'm sure I'll see you right back here in 5 seconds. All right, yes, 3 stars, absolutely. Wouldn't hesitate to recommend this to a lot of horror readers, especially like slasher lovers. Personally, I think this should have been a novella. I think it would have been more impactful for me, especially if there's not really much substance outside of the high action. And I take back what I said about objectively better title and cover, because the way that this synopsis is written, the way that it's being marketed, it does look like, I don't know how to phrase it. It doesn't look like it is a fast-paced slasher horror, but this does. So this works well. Now I'm a little more worried about Daphne though, because it also has a little bit of a vague synopsis, so I'm adjusting my expectations. What I do like about it, Josh Malerman always has endings that are ambiguous, or there is something left up for interpretation. Though those last like 50 pages leading up to the ending, they really did drag, which is so just hard to explain properly because it is so fast-paced. But because the plot doesn't really go anywhere, there is a good amount of cast, but it's really just like them shouting each other's names over and over again and being like, Pearl's controlling my mind again. And I know that makes it sound like I really didn't like it, but it did do a successful job at building its atmosphere. I would have to reread Cujo before making the claim that I think this is Cujo meets Charlotte's Web, but that's how I feel. Anyway, I'm just glad I didn't DNF it, because I took this photo a couple months ago where I had like 3 books that I was planning for 3 different secret TBRs, and I DNF'd the other 2, and I just felt like there was a little bit of a curse going on. And honestly, I could have DNF'd it. Not that it was bad, but just like nothing really happened outside of Don't Let Me Underplay. Mass murder. That's that, and let's move on to the next book. Good morning. It's a beautiful day to run some errands. Or at least I'm convincing myself of that, even though I don't really want to leave the house. I'm gonna go to the bookstore. I think I'm gonna stop at Home Sense, and I know it's a little bit early to shop for Christmas decor, but the Christmas decor has been out for a bit, and I feel like my vibe this year is gingerbread. So like, I'm gonna use all the stuff I used last year. I had like pink, white, and some like pastel green stuff, if I'm remembering what I have correctly. And now I'm gonna integrate some browns. Like I want some gingerbread houses and some like gingerbread cookie type decor. I don't know, and I also don't know what I'm getting at Indigo, but I just feel like I haven't been out of the house in a bit, so I'm gonna stop at all my favorite places and just have a good vibe day. Get a smoothie, get a coffee. Maybe Indigo even has some Christmas decor. I don't know. I'll show you around. I'll show you all the HomeSense stuff when I get home because it's like a bunch of stuff in the back. But all I got from Indigo was Babble. I got this because I just remembered that Mosaic is having a 20% off their entire store sale this weekend because it's their anniversary. It's the only way I would buy something at Indigo is if it was also on sale, so this one was 25% off. You've probably already heard of this from multiple people, but it's like a fantasy, dark academia, big, chonky book. Who knows when I'm gonna read this? Oh, sorry, why is my music on? And then I also found the pop socket that I picked out on the pop socket website, but they take like, it was gonna take a couple weeks, and I was like, maybe I can pop in store and they'll have it because I just got a brand new phone and a new phone case, and this matches it like color-wise, and I found it in the mall. So now I can actually start using my new phone because I'm not gonna use a phone without a pop socket. We're just grabbing smoothies and we're headed home, so I'll talk to you when we're there, and I'll show you a little bit of my decor for winter. Okay, let's talk Once There Were Wolves and also what I got to decorate. It's no secret that my #1 holiday decor is trees. So I just got some new like pastel pink and a white one. And then I also found exactly what I was looking for as far as gingerbread. Like this is made of cookies. Well, not real cookies, but it's stacked like that. And then this is really cute. And then I found this little house and a nutcracker. These are more of like a cool brown, obviously, and this is a more warm brown. So I think I'll have like one specific spot, maybe the TV stand that has all of like the warmer tones. And then I'll keep these ones in here or the other way around because there is a lot of orange in my room. Anyway, I'm not gonna decorate with those yet, but what I am gonna do today is take away all of my like Halloween specific decor because it is still fall and it's that weird transition. Like November, I don't know the vibe. Like it still feels like gourd season, but obviously not jack-o'-lantern season, so I need to figure out which of my pumpkins to put away and which to leave out. I'll put over a little musical ambiance though. If you're a channel member, you're listening to Bon Iver. If you're not, it's something copyright free. But first, let's talk about, I grabbed these both because I am excited that they match. I was waiting until this cover came out because I prefer it just a little bit over this one. And these feel like very similar stories. So in both of them, we're following a woman involved in like science and animals. So in this one, it's birds. In this one, it's wolves. And also it's a woman getting introduced to a new group of people. So in this one, there's a community where the wolves, she's like brought the wolves in order to let them like thrive in nature, and the people in the community don't want the wolves there. Meanwhile, in this one, there's a boat full of fishermen that she like talks her way onto, and in both of them, it's a woman kind of gaining control over her life. And I'm halfway through this at this point, and there are definitely some secrets involved, and her past is not fully laid out to us at the beginning of the book. And both stories also feel like they're going to be this retribution arc. Well, this one, I know it is. I'm going to put it away now. Highly recommend. But we don't fully know what has gone on in Inti's, and I think that's how you pronounce it, her past. But she's putting a lot of her time and energy into these wolves, and it feels like her kind of reclaiming something. And it's really beautiful so far. The writing itself, these voices are very similar, but this one did come out first. So since they seem so similar at this point, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about how everything's revealed or like the ending. I'm trying not to set my expectations too high, but I did give Migrations a 4.5, and this feels like it could get the exact same rating. I just love the small town vibes. I love something that has mysterious elements even when it's not a full mystery book. So basically it says here that she's part of a team of biologists and she's reintroducing 14 gray wolves into nature. She's also living with her traumatized twin sister when one of the farmers in the town is dead. and Inti is falling in love with a man who might be responsible. So either he killed this guy, the wolves killed this guy, or somebody else killed this guy, and she needs to figure out who that is, but also like protect everything that she loves all at the same time. Right now it's also reminding me a lot of one of my favorite books, Into the Forest by Jean Hageland, which I've recommended so much, and I feel like this could also be something that I find myself recommending to a lot of people. So I'm gonna get my house together, tidy up a little bit, and hopefully I remember to check in with you before I'm done the book. I'm not ready to pull out all of my winter decor. Like, some of it is more winter and some of it is more Christmas. Like, getting into those bins right now does not sound fun. So now everything just looks a little bit bare, and I left out like the leafy pumpkin garlands on my TV stand, and then I put the pink cushion back on the couch because I was like, my Christmas vibe is kind of pink. And the best part of it all is none of this matters. But anyway, a little more housekeeping I need to do is putting away all of the books. Now that I have filmed my October wrap-up, I need to find places for all of these books on my bookshelves. I actually had a good stack that I just put over there to return to the library, and I don't even know why there are some holes in my bookshelves, like what I pulled out of here, where it went, like why there's suddenly a gap. But I guess we'll just slip these right into those spots. I definitely still have room. I think there's like 3 shelves on this whole bookshelf that have space behind the books that you see for books a layer behind. So that's probably where I'll slip a bunch of books that I didn't love, because like I don't need to see them every single day. I'll tuck them behind. And then once I've filmed my like everything I read in the year video, then I'll do a declutter. I get rid of books all the time. I just like, I don't film unhauls. I think a big reason is because like it's hard to explain why I'm getting rid of some books. It's just, I have a feeling. And yet you'd look at these shelves and think, that's a book that you gave 1 star, why is it still on your shelf? But you got rid of this YA contemporary you read 5 years ago, and I don't want to explain myself, so I just don't. I need to keep this one out for the live show this weekend. I need to leave this one out because I'm going to take a picture of all of my favorite Literally Dead book club books so far. I guess in the 3 years we have read, once we read House of Hunger this month, we will have read 30 things, and I want to pick out like my top 10 and just share a photo. And I'm not sure how many 5 stars I've had. This one was a 4, and I don't know yet if that fits into the top 10, or maybe I'll do the top 15. Anyway, I'm making really good progress through this. I'm still really enjoying it. It's a slow story of a small town, but it doesn't feel slow. See, now I'm just gonna slot these all in and actually deal with them later because they are organized by color, and I feel like that's a little overwhelming right now. And there have been some things that have happened in here that I like, tropes, I don't know, tropes, themes that I don't enjoy. So I'm a little bit worried about that. I still think it's a really solid book. And I feel like, I don't know, I have some theories about things, but this doesn't feel like the kind of book that is going to lead to any like plot twist. Though if this was a mystery book, it definitely could. And if you've read it, you know what I mean. Like, she's talking about something, but I just don't know if we're supposed to believe her. There is a pretty strong mystery element, which still remains fun. I like all of the town. Everyone we're meeting is interesting and vivid, and then we're also getting flashbacks to like a little bit of her childhood. Oh, I didn't even tell you, in the very first page is introduced that it was set in like the wilderness of British Columbia, which is so crazy. From there her family moved other places, but her dad was very like into wilderness, teaching them what they can and cannot eat, and kind of like obsessive about conservation. And it's definitely impacted her in good ways and bad ways. She doesn't have a lot of self what's the word? Preservation. She is kind of quick to self-sabotage, and that definitely reminds me of the girl in Migrations. And that is a character I love to follow because I read a lot of books, and I feel like I talked about this with Migrations. Sorry I keep referencing it, but it's so good and it's so relevant to this one. But I love stories where you can't really tell if a main character even has a desire to live. It was much more clear in that one than this one, but it really is an arc that follows like finding that desire to live, finding something to live for. And so I like the direction that it's taking with those elements. Oh my god, this was 5 stars. If I wasn't focused on just like finishing it and pulling out the camera and telling you my review before I have to go pick up Liam from school, I would be crying right now. Like, the ending of this was so painful and so beautiful, and everything that should have happened happened. Like, we got some really hard-hitting moments, but not necessarily the hard-hitting moments you were expecting. It seemed to be leading in some different directions, and I didn't know like what people or what wolves we were going to lose in the end, or what was going to happen with that. And it was really tough because you get to know these characters so incredibly well. Now let's talk about the lyrics from Wolves, because someday my pain will mark you and harness your blame is so relevant. First of all, this character has something, I can't remember if it was synesthesia or something related to synesthesia, like a branch of synesthesia, where her vision and her like feelings are so connected. So if somebody is hurting somebody, she feels that. The book explained it far more than I would be able to. And then obviously with the wild wolves around you, in the morning I'll call you. Like, that's a play on words, but also this book has to do with mourning and for blaming yourself. There's not a lot of lyrics in this song, but there's this repetition of what might have been lost. And if you've seen, there's this really messy performance of this song that I'm obsessed with. And then also seeing it live and it being the encore of the concert, like that part of the song just goes on and on and on. And I'm telling you, this story is truly about what might have been lost. If this didn't happen, if this went differently, if she had done something different, said something different, the loss she experienced wouldn't have happened, but also there's so much loss that she could have seen. And the retribution that she needed, even though there were so many devastating things that did happen in here, I have to give this a 5 star. Like, oh my god, it was so good. Singing to me, okay, well, the world looks a little bit different compared to the last time I was vlogging in the vehicle going to a bookstore, because this is currently the vibe. It snowed a lot. We're headed to my parents right now to shovel their driveway, and then the mosaic sale is going on, and I'm gonna pick up Glory as well as a couple other things, take advantage of their discount. Rob has to drop something off at work, so like we have to drive into town today, even though I'd rather not. But I am excited to grab the book because there's one in stock at Indigo, but there's also one in stock at Mosaic. I just pulled out all of my winter stuff. This isn't the most winter jacket, but the zipper was in a weird place. Anyway, we definitely have to buy Liam some snow boots because I just pulled out all the winter stuff because I was not prepared. And also, does that mean that I can put out all of my winter decor or Christmas decor? Or is it still too early? I feel like once the snow hits, like, anything goes. See down there? I see something fluffy. Dexter? Are you hiding from the snow? Here he comes. Oh, hi. Do you want us to let you in? He's so wet.
He is very wet.
Bye. The snow's really messing with my hair. Okay, here's what I got from the Mosaic sale. Number 1 is Faux, which I know a lot of people will be excited that I'm reading. Number 2 is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. Number 3 is Legends and Lattes. I talked about recently how my cozy mystery era that I was in / am still kind of in could lead me in 2 directions, either cozy fantasy or romance, because I'm looking for more just like joy. And here's the cozy fantasy that I'm planning on reading in the new year. And then last, oh gosh, this is bigger than I thought. This is Glory.
That's not how you say that. If I wasn't sick, I'd yell it in the song.
Go ahead.
Glory. That's all I got.
Is that John Legend's Glory, or is that Dermot Kennedy's Glory?
Oh, John Legend.
We'll listen to Your Glory first, and then we'll compare. Okay, let's actually find out what Glory is about, shall we? Now, the lyrics for Glory, there's a lot of things encompassed in it, but I think a lyric that I really enjoy is I guess the whole song is kind of about the idea of life and death and grief and glory. The lyric that goes, "I've learned that doves and ravens fly the same," is somehow we're talking about animals yet again, but like doves exemplify, I mean, peace, but also love and light, and ravens kind of represent death and darkness. And I think the idea is that like love and death have the same impact, or the impact that falling in love has and the idea of losing that love are one and the same. So who knows if that's the message that we'll get from Glory the book, or why this is even named Glory. I wonder if there's a character named Glory. It's inspired by the unexpected coup in November 2017, interesting reading this in November, of Robert G. Mugabe, Zimbabwe's president of nearly 4 decades. Glory shows a country's imploding, narrated by a chorus of animal voices that unveil the ruthlessness required to uphold the illusion of absolute power and imagination. Am I like somewhat reading another thing inspired or similar to Animal Farm? Interesting. At the center of this is a young goat named Destiny, who's bearing witness to the revolution, the animal kingdom, its connection to our primal response, and its resonance in the mythology, folk tales, and fairy tales that define cultures the world over. Although Zimbabwe is the immediate inspiration for this thrilling story, Glory was written in a time of global clamor, with resistance movements across the world challenging different forms of oppression. Thus, it often feels like Bulawayo captures several places in the one blockbuster allegory, crystallizing a turning point in history with the texture and nuance that only the greatest fiction can. Okay. I love when a book synopsis talks so highly of itself. I think it's fantastic. This is the author. We've got exactly 400 pages to read, so let's get to it. I'm 50 pages in. I really like the writing style of it, like the setup. There are big chapters, but then there are these little, I don't know what you call them, sub chapters, probably not, but there's just like 1 or 2 page thought or scene, and we're getting to know all of these characters and the situation that this fictional country is in. I do naturally wonder, if I knew the historical context, if that would make the book like easier to understand, but I'm not struggling in any way. So I actually think that'll be an interesting perspective, is to see what it does for me, like not really knowing the full history. Rob right now is shopping for a new monitor. The dual monitors are finally out of here, which worries me because I'm assuming he's gonna get a bigger one, and my webcam is already so high up and is really pointing down at me on live shows that I think it's gonna be even wilder. But I'll make sure to show you that when it arrives. Is Animal Farm on here, I wonder? This is like a thing of classic books that you're supposed to read in your lifetime, and I'm really not intentional with it. Oh yeah, it's right there in the middle. I have scratched off a couple things over the last couple years, especially. My reading of Animal Farm was at least 15 years ago, so I don't remember it super well, but from what I think it is it's clear like animals and they kind of gain more human-like traits as the book goes on and become more human-like. Not as in physically transforming, but like their conversations and their government and their dynamics and whatnot. But this, it feels like they are humans. Like this is a story about humans. They're just kind of referred to as like the horse and the donkey. Like they literally have Twitter accounts and they wear coats and they make phone calls, and they are animals. Like they'll talk about how I don't even know what it was, but the horse was like, my chiropractor doesn't want me standing on 2 legs because it's bad for my back or whatever. So the vibe is different, but it's satirical and it's funny. Right now it's a story of like power and corruption, and basically there's this horse who's been in power for decades and decades, and he's saying things like because we're no longer run by a racist colonial government, everything is perfect. Like, even though this thing and this thing aren't great and like some people are struggling, like at least we're running ourselves and I'm in charge, and your ancestors wouldn't want you to betray them by like changing anything. Like, let's keep everything the same. You know, familiar conversations from lots of different governments. And it's like, don't look at the bad things. Like, nothing is bad, everything's perfect. I'm in charge, you shouldn't question me, everything is great. And then his wife, the donkey, she just got her like PhD because she realized that maybe she should have power too, and she's intelligent, she should be able to do whatever she wants, and oh my gosh, people will actually listen to her even though she's a woman. So she literally calls this university up and she's like, how have you guys not thought to give me a degree in something? Like, how insulting. Have you met me? People give me free shit all the time. So now she's not just Sweet Mother, she's Dr. Sweet Mother, and she's gonna do great things with her new power. So that's where I'm at. I'm having a good time. Tell the vlog all about it, babe.
I just got a bigger borderless monitor.
Are you gonna test your game to see the frame rate?
I'm gonna change the frame rate to everything actually.
The resolution, computation. Good morning, my friends, and welcome back to the Cupboard Chronicles. I'm making myself a coffee, so you stay there. I'll do this, and I will attempt to give you an update on Glory. I'm in that like weird but wonderful position where a book is too good and too smart for me to accurately review because I don't have the vocabulary. I just got a couple books in the mail, which is very exciting, and I forgot to open them on camera. But one of them is Jamila Green Ruins Everything, which is one of my favorite books of the year, and that I read the library edition and I was like, I need to buy myself a copy to own, and now I have. And these definitely have their satire in common, and I didn't even realize I loved satire until this year. Also, I've chosen my butterfly shirt today because it very much fits with some things that this book is doing. I love that both of these books are told through the lens of this young woman, while the satire and the commentary on politics and religion and all of that takes so much of the focus. We're rooted in this one character who has a lot of love and criticism of the world around her that is being like critiqued in the book. Thank you for your patience. What I find to be particularly impressive about this is the balancing of different tones. So satire is meant to shed a light on something, have important conversations, critique, and expose something. But it can easily lean mocking, and it becomes a fine line, and I just think that this is doing it so incredibly well while being like actually funny. Like, I put a tab in here and I said this book has no right being this funny. How she has balanced making things humorous while also shedding light on important topics, while also making it so heartbreaking. Like, I have welled up a couple times. I'm just enthralled by what this book is doing. The use of language, like, I'm almost done it. I feel I keep thinking I should update them, but like, what am I gonna say? Should I talk about the plot itself? The plot itself is kind of the same the entire time. We have Destiny, who is returning to her country and is seeing all the issues and wants to do something about it, but she's also just a witness to all of these things, and she's not in so many different scenes because we're just following various leaders and society as a whole. It feels poetic in so many parts. There is this use of repetition that I'm loving so much. And by loving, I don't mean enjoying, but really just feeling the impact of. Like, though this is taking place in Africa, it's talking about things going on in America. And this page, hearing it on audio, because I've been doing a mix of the physical book and the audiobook, was just very jarring, as it should be. I think my favorite section so far is called Q Nation, and just the way that it was told and talking about all of the citizens and the way that they used to go about life, just being able to stand in line to go to the doctor, stand in line to get a meal. All the people waiting for these services used to do it peacefully and wait their turn. And just every sentence ended with in the queues. So it goes like, they took care not to step on each other or push or shove in the queues. They held their heads high, made eye contact, and grinned politely in the queues. They allowed the elderly and the pregnant and those living with disabilities to go ahead of line in the queues. They read newspaper and checked Twitter and social media for the intelligent new Minister of Finance's updates on the new suspension economy in the queues. And it's just pages and pages of that. And even though the entire book has been this descent into chaos, it's also just this chapter itself. It slowly transitions to the next generation listening and learning many things in the queues. They learned addition and multiplication in the queues. Day by day, the young ones carefully watched all kinds of bodies to see if it were possible to indeed stand for that long, for those many days, many weeks, many months in the queues. And it's just this new perspective, reflects real life and how every single person has a different period of time that it takes them from just being happy with the bare minimum to recognizing that there is societal structures that are the issue, and how you can elect new leadership and you can think that you're on a path to change and positivity, and then corruption will continue to happen. It's intense, but then there's also moments where like this leader is interacting with Siri for the first time and he thinks that it's a woman, and this woman is just all knowing and answers his every question and has such a like kind voice. And so he starts to like build this relationship with her. I am 80 pages from the end and anything can happen from here. I don't know like what other things it's going to talk about or do, but I already feel like this is gonna be a 5-star. Okay, I finished it. I was completely correct. 5 stars, fantastic book. Embarrassed to admit that until I just went to the Goodreads page for the very first time with this book, I had no idea this was a Booker Prize nominated book. I didn't even realize it came out this year, but some of my friends have read it. There were a couple 5 stars, but I was surprised by how few people have read this. I think there was only like 1,000 ratings, considering this is a Booker Prize nominee. That just seems odd. And also odd, the amount of people who absolutely hated this. Like there's just a crazy amount of 1 stars that I just kind of sifted through. I guess a lot of people just hated the whole premise of this being animals because they didn't act like animals, which I guess is fair taking into people's reading preferences and histories. I love reading like surrealist kind of books, so I almost never need things to make sense. Like I don't care that I don't understand how the sheep and his hooves could tweet and drive a car. This definitely clearly set out to be a nonfiction book that takes a lot of real life situations. And then reading an interview with this author, it was just about her like, you know, taking part of history and making it her own by fictionalizing it, and with that turning everyone into animals. And I think it was perfect. Like I really think this is a perfect book. I loved all the stylistic choices. The writing was great. It was easy to follow, and I think it's accomplishing its intent of bringing awareness to not just corruption and oppression and the need for revolution, but also bringing to light like the situation itself in Zimbabwe. And I have been on the Wikipedia pages and learning all about these people and the election process and what happened in real life, because I want to make all of the connections. So 5 stars, and I'm so glad. I think if we look at the lyrics of this song, it is a love story. It's about losing hope, but then meeting a woman, and she becomes his version of a kingdom and makes him have something to live for. And I feel like we could make some connections here if we really wanted to. The idea of glory in this book and the references to the title itself is really intentional and meaningful. So I think that's the takeaway, that the title accurately fits the book and the song. You know how there are some songs that just have ridiculous titles that aren't even in the song, and how some books have titles that don't seem like they reference the book in any way? These do, and that's what they have in common, and that's really beautiful. And that's the end of the experiment. Yes, I know I'm in the same position I was when I reviewed this, because I actually was reading this while reading these. That's how long it took me to complete this, that I read 2 other books, even though this is 288 pages. So we had a 3-star, we had a 5-star, and we had another 5-star. Was it a good idea for me to have my favorite song titles pick the books that I read for a week? Obviously. And the good news is I have so many other favorite songs, so perhaps we'll have to make this an annual thing. In the comments below, tell me the title of your favorite song and let's figure out a book that you should read. Because clearly we can go outside of the actual correct words and make anything fit for a challenge, and I encourage everybody to do that. So thank you so much for watching. I read a book that I probably never would have, read a backlist that I've had for a while, and read something that everyone's been telling me I was gonna love, and I thought I would love, and I did. What a success. I will see you next time. Bye.